Alrighty, good morning everybody, and welcome back to another Modern Cube draft. I know this is supposed to be a constructed video time slot, but I could not force myself to play constructed today. I do have a deck lineup that I want to play, but I just feel like I'm forcing myself, and so I don't want to do that, and I don't want to make bad content by forcing myself to do it. So we're going to play some Modern Cube, and we'll see if my mood improves. And if that's the case, then I will do, a constructed video tomorrow. But I think I'm going to take Legion Warboss. Dark Confidant is one of the more powerful cards in this pack, and so is Luminous Broodmoth, but I think white is worse in Modern Cube than it is in Legacy and Vintage. Even though it's still okay, you can still play the deck, I think it's just a little bit worse in this cube. Whereas Mono Red is pretty much always strong, so we're going to take Legion Warboss. Alright, pack 2. So, if we want to stay Mono Red, we can take On-Crop Crasher. We can take Opt if we want to do a blue-red tempo prowessy style deck. We could do Dreadbore if we want to do red-black. Spectral Procession pretty much only goes in mono-white. And Collective Defiance I'm not a huge fan of. I think I'm going to take On-Crop Crasher and try and stay mostly red for the duration of this draft. It's possible that we do an Izzet or a Rakdos deck, depending on what cards are passed to us. Okay, so we have Click if we wanted to try and do blue-red. Otherwise we have Earthshaker, Kenra, and Char. Kenra I think is a little bit underrated. I don't know if it's better than Char, though. We could take Path if we wanted to do Boros. But I think just taking the haste creature here is the best option. Alright, in this pack we have Bedlam Reveler, Embereth Shieldbreaker, Fabled Passage, which is a little bit worse in an aggressive deck, but it would allow us to splash quite comfortably. There's also Tarmogoyf, which gets better if we draft a bunch of support for it, and Groll is a thing. We could take Bloodbraid Elf or Klothys if we see her. Shieldbreaker is a little bit worse in this format because there's not a ton of artifacts that need to be destroyed. It's not like a format that has Soul Ring and Mana Crypt and all of them. But it is a cheap dude. We have no instants and sorcery, so Bedlam Reveler is a little bit of a stretch. I think I'm going to take the Shieldbreaker, even still. It's kind of like a main deck sideboard card, if that makes sense. We can take Blightstep Pathway if we want to be able to splash black. Crater's Claws just acts as reach. It's a mana dump in the late game. Kestic Wolf Run could be good if we were playing red-green. Incidental, just turn our mana into damage. I think I'm going to take the Pathway, and we'll see if, Bob wheels, because if he does, I am not opposed to splashing Bob. Alright, in this pack there is a Bone Shards, a Marsh Flat, and an Incinerate. I think I'm going to take Incinerate, because I do need some amount of burn to make this deck work. Okay, for this pack, Bonfire of the Damned doesn't really fit in this deck because it requires a lot of mana and we're not going to have a lot. Rip Apart requires we play white, and while it is a great card, I think if we were going to take a white card, we're going to take Legion's Landing. I could take Read the Bones, but I don't think I want to play Read the Bones in an aggressive deck. That might be wrong. Maybe taking Read the Bones is correct here. But I think we're going to take Legion's Landing, because that card is actually really good if you can play it. Siege Gang is good top end. Mere Battlesphere is a little bit higher top end than that. We're probably not playing white. I think we're going to take Searing Blaze, because bolting a creature as well as our opponent's face is pretty good value. Confidant came all the way around, and I'm pretty thrilled about that. I probably wouldn't be playing a Pyroclasm, so we're going to be pretty certainly red-black. I'll take, I guess, a Nature's Claim would be the most likely card for me to sideboard out of this. And even if we're mono-red just splashing black for Bob, that's probably good enough. I guess I'll take a Liliana's Mastery for the sideboard. Gravecrawler is an aggressive creature that we can play, and if we get another cheap zombie, might give us some extra value. So, we'll take that. Hexmage, I could see playing against a Planeswalker heavy list, Night of Autumn, or Woodland Cemetery. We're probably not playing either of these, but I guess I take the Fixing and Rip Apart to the sideboard. Okay. Needle Verge and Pillar Verge Pathway if we wanted to splash white. It's recommending we take Quarantine Field. I don't know how I feel about that. I think for us, we're either taking the Pathway to splash white or Shatter Skull Smashing. And I think the Pathway enables more stuff, potentially. Like, we could, if our mana is good enough, we could be mono-red Mardu, basically. Alright, in this pack we've got Imperial Recruiter, Banefire, Chandra. There's also Windbrisk Heights, Smuggler's Copter. I think Copter is probably the best card in this pack, but I really like Chandra, because Chandra is like a late-game powerhouse for mono-red, and I think I'm going to take Chandra. Hopefully, like, Banefire comes around, because Banefire is a really good top-end burn spell. Okay, so now we have Glorybringer, Nighthawk Scavenger, or, like, Student of Warfare. And I think Glorybringer is the best card for us. Nighthawk Scavenger is pretty good. It's definitely good in the mirror match, and it helps offset the life loss from Bob. But our mana is not good to play a double black spell right now. This is kind of the same thing with Whip of Erebos, but let's get the Glorybringer. Alright, Swiftspear is really good. Dragon's Rage Channeler is also pretty good, but we don't have a lot of ways to enable Delirium. Like, presumably we can get sorceries and instants. If we get a fetch land, we can have a way to get lands, but artifacts, enchantments would be tough. I think we're going to take Swiftspear because it's slightly better in our deck. If it comes around, I will probably take Dragon's Rage Channeler. Experimental Frenzy is a consideration because it's also a late-game powerhouse like Chandra, but our curve has to be pretty low, and I almost only want to play that in mono-red. Goldspan Dragon, Confidant, and Cryptbreaker. So, or not Confidant, Kroxa. Goldspan Dragon is another really good top-end spell. It kind of fits with like the Terror of the Peaks mono-red strategy. Kroxa is great value, but only works if our mana really supports black and red. And Cryptbreaker is a great synergy with Gravecrawler. It's a way to turn extra cards into creatures that can attack. We can draw cards if necessary. I think I'm going to take the dragon. I like big hasty dragons in my mono-red. So in this pack, we basically have Stoneforge Mystic, but we've already passed almost all of the equipment, including Batterskull, which I think was in the last pack. There's Revoker, which can be good, and Mishra's Factory. And I think out of this pack, I'm going to take Mishra's Factory. Okay. Venerated Loxodon is great in aggressive decks, but we, once again, do not have enough white splash to support it over something like PNLR, which is just good value on a mono-red creature. So I think I'm going to take PNLR. Okay, Dragonskull Summit makes splashing for Confidant and Gravecrawler easier. I'm passing up on a Phoenix of Ash and a Giver of Runes, but I don't think I'm going to be playing white. We don't have enough instants and sorceries to make Saheeli actually that great, so let's take the fixing. Luminarch Aspirant is fairly good for a creature, but I don't think we're playing white, so that means we're going to take Shatter Skull Smashing. We'll leave the equipment to the guy that takes the Stoneforge. Imperial Recruiter, we could play if we just needed another 3-drop. It is card advantage and can tutor up some of our utility in like Confidant, Kenra, or Shieldbreaker potentially. It's definitely better in a twin shell of some kind, or like a Kiki shell of some kind. Student of Warfare, most likely card out of those cards we would actually play, so I'll take that and put it in the sideboard. I'm going to put Needle Verge Pathway in the side. I will take Experimental Frenzy. Cryptbreaker came around, which is fantastic, because we actually did kind of want that card. We still may not even be playing black. It does kind of depend. It might be a very light black splash. Mystic came around, but Delver of Secrets is in the cube. Somebody was asking me if Delver was in the cube when I was streaming Modern Cube last night, but I actually didn't know for sure. I was pretty certain Snapcaster was, but... Also, somebody took Dragon's Rage Channeler, because we didn't see it again. Final pack. What do we got? Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. It's probably one of the best 1-drops ever printed, if not the best 1-drop ever printed. Except maybe, like, Deathrite Shaman, I guess. I'm going to be taking that because I kind of want to play with this card to see how good it is. I hope Forked Bolt comes around. It probably won't. But yeah, let's take Ragavan. Lightning Bolt. Definitely taking Lightning Bolt. It is a very, very strong instant spell. Would not mind a red fetch, but we also don't have a Blood Crypt, so not too heartbroken. So we get to draw cards from our opponent's deck and make treasures whenever he hits. That's pretty good. Alright, Eidolon of the Great Revel is probably the best card in this pack for us, but there's also Porcelain Legionnaire, which I would play despite not being a white deck. But I think I'm going to take Burst Lightning, because Burst Lightning goes in more decks, which means Eidolon is more likely to wheel. Alright, Soulscar Mage is excellent. Thalia is fantastic, but we're not playing white. And I guess I would take Outpost Siege or Roast, but it's going to be Soulscar. Prismatic Vista would help us. Oh, never mind. We didn't get the Dragon's Rage Channeler, so we don't actually need Delirium. It is fixing for us, but I think Young Pyro is higher power level. I don't really like Collective Brutality in a deck like this, even though it is versatile, because I don't want to discard extra cards. It's kind of just a bad burn spell, a bad duress, and a bad removal spell, so I guess it still has some utility, but definitely going to take Young Pyro, because we're kind of getting to the point that we have a critical mass of cheap spells. Going to take Bloodstained Mire. Anything to make our mana better is good at this point. Perforos, God of the Forge versus Woestrider. So this just shocks each opponent whenever we have a creature enter the battlefield. And we have War Boss. And we have Young Pyro. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of devotion to red, so I imagine we take Perforos. We may not play Perforos, depending, but Kaleidoscorch is another burn spell, which could be a reason that we play the other pathway that taps for red. Because that one we can play as a mountain, or we could potentially play it as a plains later for Kaleidoscorch. Take the burn spell, I guess. Obnixilis Reignited, probably not playing it. Nahiri, also not playing it. So I guess I'll take a Sword of Light and Shadow in case I play against a black-white deck, because we're not playing Usher of the Fallen. I mean, we do have a Stoneforge Mystic, but Chainer Nightmare Adept versus Phyrexian Arena. I think Chainer wins out, but I don't know if I'm going to play Chainer. Rankle or Immersturm Predator. Vampire Dragon. Becomes tapped, exile up to one card from a graveyard and put a 1/1 counter on it. Sacrifice another creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn, tap it. We'll take the Immersturm Predator. I can take the Darkboar pathway if we end up playing Kaleidoscorch. Packrat is a great card, which can win games by itself. Garruk into the sideboard, and a Hissing Quagmire we aren't going to play. Okay, somebody took Eidolon of the Great Revel. It's kind of surprising. So, Shatterskull Smashing is actually just a land. I don't think we play Experimental Frenzy in the main deck. I don't think we're playing Chainer. We might be playing Immersturm Predator. Do I have a deck already? I think I have a deck already. Well, that was easy. Yeah, if I was going to bring in Experimental Frenzy, I would probably have to drop Immersturm Predator, Perforos, or one of the 5-drops. We have slightly too many 5-drops for this to be excellent. I think it'd still be good, depending on matchup, but... So, Blightstep Pathway, Bloodstained Mire, Dragonskull Summit, Mishra's Factory, Shatterskull Smashing is actually just a mountain. Needleverge Pathway is a mountain that can potentially power up Kaleidoscorch. And Darkboar Pathway is a swamp that can potentially power up Kaleidoscorch. So 2 basic swamps. Yeah, I think we got ourselves a deck. We'll save, and I'll see you guys in round 1. Alrighty. I think with Young Pyro, Soulscar, and Swiftspear, we're fine to keep this on the draw. Any land gets us to Young Pyro or Packrat, and the land after that gets us to Warboss and Oncromp Crasher. That's a land. So we'll play Shatterskull the Hammer Pass. Pay 3 life, play Swiftspear. We might need the black mana from Blightstep Pathway to play Packrat, so that's why I didn't play that land and instead opted for the land that bolts me. We draw an Imperial Recruiter. So go to combat. Attack for 1. Opponent takes 1. Play Blight Step Pathway, play Young Pyro, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. Hard Evidence. We untap. We draw Bloodstained Mire. Play Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire. Get a mountain. Play War Boss. Go to combat. Make a token. Swing out. Opponent blocks the 2 damage, takes 2, goes to 16. They sack the clue to draw. They untap, play Plains, and Wrath of God. Alright, well thankfully we are not out of gas. Play Imperial Recruiter. I think we go get Ragavan here, or Dark Confidant. But Ragavan strikes me as a better card for this situation. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Polluted Delta, cracks it. Plays an Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, or Nightmare Muse. We have to exile a card from our hand, so it's probably going to be Pack Rat. Untap, we draw a swamp. Play a swamp. Play On-Crop Crasher. Dash Ragavan. Go to combat. Kill Ashiok, hit our opponent, hit our opponent. We exile an island from them. We can't play it because it only references cast. Play Soulscar Mage, pass the turn. Ragavan goes back to hand. Opponent plays a Marsh Flats and cracks it. They play a Frost Titan, so they're going to tap on Crop Crasher. Sure. We untap, we draw a mountain, which is less than ideal. Play a mountain, pass the turn. I'd really like to draw one of our big flying dragons, really. Okay, opponent hits us for 6 after plussing Ashiok. They got our Glorybringer and our Goldspan Dragon. We untap and draw a Gravecrawler, so dash Ragavan, go to combat. Opponent has a Blink of an Eye. Alright, that's going to be game. So our opponent is Esper. I might want Vampire Hexmage, but double black is going to be kind of tough with this mana base. I think I'm just going to run it back. Alright, play first. And we will keep this. I'm actually going to just play out Ragavan on turn 1. So we have turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3 covered. Play a mountain, play Ragavan, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island and Hard Evidence. We untap, draw Goldspan Dragon, play a mountain, play Earthshaker Kenra, say the crab can't block, go to combat, attack for 4. We exile a Plains, opponent untaps, they play an island, which is probably good because that means they don't have white mana yet. We untap, we draw a mountain, play a mountain, play On-Crop Crasher, go to combat, attack, and exert. We will say the crab can't block this turn. Okay, we exile Collective Brutality, which is kind of huge. So let's escalate 3 modes. Duress, kill, drain, black. black, and I'm actually going to pitch Goldspan Dragon and Shatter Skull Smashing. Alright. Pass the turn, we know our opponent's hand. Opponent top decks a Swamp like a god. Plays Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Upticks Ashiok, milling us, getting Confidant and Shield Breaker. We untap, draw a Swamp, play a Swamp, play War Boss, go to combat, get a hasty token, tag with everybody at our opponent, and next turn, I mean, unless they draw... I don't know what they could draw, actually, to get out of this. So we can just stop them from blocking and kill them. They would have to gain a lot of life and probably kill our best threat. Run it back. Hope we have another incredible aggro hand. Game 3. I mean, I guess this counts. We will keep. I unfortunately do not have Blood Crypt, which means I have to start on a black source for Gravecrawler, which means no Searing Blaze until turn 3, potentially. My opponent did mulligan. We draw Imperial Recruiter. Fetch with Bloodstained Mire, get a Swamp, play Gravecrawler, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Glacial Fortress into a Thing in the Ice. We untap, draw Burst Lightning, go to combat, attack for 2. Opponent blocks, play a Mountain and Kaleidoscorch. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays a Swamp, Lingering Souls. We untap, draw Dragon Skull Summit, play the Summit. I think we're going to go for an Imperial Recruiter play here. And I think Confidant or Young Pyro are our best options here. Young Pyro helps us go wide, giving us extra value off of the burn spells we have in hand. Kenra helps us swing past tokens once. Crypt Breaker lets us recast Gravecrawler. I think I'm going to take Confidant, actually. Pass the turn. No attacks. When it plays a Polluted Delta, passes. We untap and draw On-Crop Crasher. So play Pillar Verge Pathway and Searing Blaze. Then go to combat. Attack for 3. But it blocks Gravecrawler. Takes 1. Then we play Confidant. I want our Kaleidoscorch to do 3 damage on the flashback, which is why I tapped the way I did. Opponent pulls from Tomorrow in response, draws 2 cards, and then discards a Swamp. They play a Hard Evidence. Sack the Clue to draw. Confidant is going to draw us cards. So we untap. Confidant finds us Perforos and Swiftspear. Play On-Crop Crasher. Play Swiftspear. Go to combat. Attack and exert. Try and get in as much damage as we possibly can because our opponent is playing Wraths. Interesting that they did not flash back Lingering Souls, which tells me they're probably going to Wrath this turn. Or not, unless they have Damnation. They play a Wall of Omens. They draw a card. And now they flash back Lingering Souls. We untap. Confidant finds us Immersturm Predator and Chandra. So we can use Chandra to clear the wall. Or we could uptick and cast Incinerate. This does not have haste, but it does gain Indestructible. Let's play Chandra. And we're just going to uptick for damage this turn. Okay. Because our opponent might actually be dead in relatively short order to the burn that we have in hand. This way, even if they do Wrath, we still end with a Planeswalker. Okay, they have a blink of an eye. What it plays a Frost Titan. I think they have to tap the On-Crop Crasher still. Yep. They are now attacking us for 2. Alright. I mean, they're dead to us drawing Lightning Bolt. Draw Pianalar and a Mountain. Play a Mountain. Kaleidos Scorch also does 3 damage. So I think what we do is we play Chandra. Uptick for damage again. Do not cast Young Pyro. Opponent goes to 4. And if we make it to our next turn, our opponent dies on our upkeep, and we don't even have to let the Confidant trigger resolve. We could use Burst Lightning to save ourselves, potentially, depending on what our opponent casts. Okay, opponent plays Ashiok. They go to combat. They attack Chandra. And they are going to tap on Crop Crasher. Okay. I think we block with Confidant here. They're going to bounce Chandra. We'll exile Immersturm Predator. Untap. Draw Glorybringer. So, Burst Lightning. Browse trigger. I actually should have cast Burst Lightning on my opponent's end step. Incinerate? I guess I was playing around Mana Tithe by doing it this way, but... Alright, we got a win. I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand is slow, which is not what you want to see in mono red. But potentially it does stuff. I think I still mulligan, because we have so many good 1-drops and such. This is a very high-risk, high-reward hand, but we're going to try it. If my opponent has turn 1 removal, we'll be in trouble, and if they don't, we will be off to the races. And if we draw a second land, honestly, that's probably good enough too. So lead on Ragavan, opponent plays Plains, we untap, draw Imperial Recruiter, go to combat, attack for 2, we exile a Mountain and get a treasure. I think we just pass, because if we get another treasure, we can play Warboss, or if we draw land, we can play Chandra. Opponent plays an Adanto Vanguard. Okay. So let's pass to their end step and try and bolt the Vanguard. Okay, they pay 4 to keep it alive. We untap. We draw a Mountain. So, do we have any creatures that help in this situation? I guess we just attack and see if our opponent pays to keep it alive. They do. Okay, so they're already down to 10. So play a Mountain, and I'm going to play Imperial Recruiter. Let's get Earthshaker Kenra, because that will guarantee at least a little bit of damage next turn. Opponent plays a Mountain. They play a Silverblade Paladin. So they're going to give everybody double strike. And you're going to hit us for 6. We'll take it. Untap. We draw Dragon Skull Summit. Play Dragon Skull. Play Warboss. The token that's going to enter the battlefield and attack this turn will do nothing, because it's just going to get eaten by the Silverblade Paladin. But provided, of course, my opponent keeps attacking, we'll have a much larger swing the next turn. And we can double creature, or if we draw land, we can play Chandra and then play Earthshaker Kenra. Okay, opponent plays Chandra, Torch of Defiance, probably just as a removal spell to kill Legion Warboss, if I had to guess. Yep. Okay. Opponent goes to combat, attacks for 6. I think we take it and go to 8. And we untap, draw a mountain, play a mountain, play Chandra, kill Silverblade Paladin, go to combat, kill Chandra. Okay. Opponent's turn. They can attack us down to 5, which would be less than ideal. They play a Pillar Verge pathway and kill Chandra. And they play a Selfless Spirit and they pass. We untap and draw Burst Lightning. So play Earthshaker Kenra. Say Selfless Spirit cannot block. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Opponent goes to 7. Play Crypt Breaker. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent is going to Lightning Helix our face. She's going to take us to 5, which means we need to, I think, kill Selfless Spirit. Okay. We go to 5. Opponent goes up to 10. They untap. They attack us for 3. We will offer the trade. Opponent takes the trade. They play a Skyclave Apparition, taking out the Earthshaker Kenra, so we do not get any additional value from it. Then they play Porcelain Legionnaire. Also less than ideal for us. Draw and play Soulscar, pass the turn. If my opponent attacks with both creatures, we double block Skyclave Apparition, otherwise we do nothing. They play Conclave Tribunal, taking out Soulscar. Block the more damage, I guess. Untap, we draw a mountain, and that's the game. Okay. I do want Sword of Light and Shadow. I don't think I'm going to play Stoneforge, and I think Sword of Light and Shadow is probably better than Pioneer. Alright, I would like to play first. And we will keep. This is an awful lot of value for a 1-drop. I can now see why it's like $100 on Moto a piece. Not seen one in all my drafts yet, at least. Unless it was like the first one where I wasn't paying attention. I think I passed a Douthie Voidwalker. Opponent leads on plains, we untap. Draw a mountain, play a mountain, go to combat, attack for 2, get a treasure, we exile Student of Warfare, play Student, and I am actually going to play out the Shield Breaker, pass the turn. It's not like we're really ever going to level that up or anything, but they rip apart Ragavan, rude. We draw Sword of Light and Shadow, play a mountain, play the sword, go to combat, hit them for 3. They play a mountain into a Goblin Rabblemaster, hitting us for 1. We untap, we draw Swamp, play the Swamp, Shatter Skull Smashing, and we'll just do 2 damage here. Go to combat, hit our opponent for 3. They go to 12. They untap, they play Pillar Verge Pathway. They play Shatter Skull Smashing to kill their creature and ours. Play a mountain. Play a Glorybringer. Go to combat. Attack them for 4. We're not exerting yet. Opponent untaps. They play a Sacred Foundry untapped going to 6. And play Lyra Dawnbringer. And they're dead. Yep, opponent knows it too. Sweet. No adjustments, run it back. Alright, we will keep this. Opponent leads on Plains, Student of Warfare. We draw Sword of Light and Shadow. Alright, so we have decisions to make here. We can either lead on Cryptbreaker, but that takes us off Searing Blaze, which is our best answer to Student of Warfare. Although Searing Blaze may be useful at other points of the game. So we're going to play Cryptbreaker. Opponent plays Plains, levels up, attacks us for 3, that's fine. We untap and draw Glorybringer. Play Bloodstained Mire, crack Bloodstained Mire, get a mountain. Incinerate, go to combat, hit them for 1. If we don't draw land, we're going to start making zombies. If we do draw land, we're probably going to play out Sword. Opponent plays Shatter Skull to Hammer Pass, bolting themselves, playing a Giver of Runes. We untap and draw another red land, thankfully, so play Needle Verge Pathway. Searing Blaze, kill Giver, go to combat, hit our opponent to 12. Our mana woes could have been avoided if we'd had a Blood Crypt. Opponent takes the damage, then takes a bolt. Okay, we untap, we draw Dragon Skull Summit, play Dragon Skull Summit, play Sword, pass the turn. Next turn, we can potentially Earthshaker Kenra and equip it. Opponent plays a Sacred Foundry untapped, and for 5 mana plays Lyra Dawnbringer. We untap and draw Soulscar Mage. So we could play Soulscar Mage, equip it, and shrink Lyra to a 2/2. Or we can play Earthshaker Kenra and get in. I actually think I like the equip and shrink plan. Because it stops them from gaining a bunch of life. So instead of chunks of 5, it's going to be tiny chunks of 2, and Glorybringer can snipe it. Alright, this is unfortunate. So we're getting hit for a lot. Opponent's going to gain life and pick up probably Giver of Runes. Because they can play that this turn. Oh. I get back something. Heck yeah. That was awesome. I need a land to play Glorybringer, though. That did not work how my opponent wanted it to work, that's for sure. We untap, we draw a mountain. Perfect. Play a mountain. Play Glorybringer. Go to combat. Attack. Exert. Kill Zealous Conscripts. Hit our opponent for 7. We gain life. Opponent untaps. They are now top decking. They play Hazaret the Fervent, which can block Soulscar Mage, but they're going to hit us for 7 instead. We untap and draw Ragavan. So we can dash Ragavan, play Earthshaker Kenra, hit our opponent for 7 down to 3. We go up to 7. And then play Cryptbreaker as a blocker. We can also leave back the Kenra to dodge 1 single piece of removal. So, and we might get something really good off of our opponent's top deck here. So we exile the top card of their deck, which is a Rabble Master. Yeah, I'll play their Rabble Master and then play Cryptbreaker. And that leaves me with multiple blockers. Then we put Ragavan back in our hand. When it cracks Arid Mesa, goes to 4, gets a Plains to thin their deck. They untap, they draw. Unless they attack with Lyra, they are dead immediately to Glorybringer's damage. And that's assuming, of course, they can't just kill us. Which they can shock us for 2 and take us to 5 if they discard the only card in their hand. But we can still block Hazaret. Alright, opponent scoops and we get the match. I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright. Slow, but I think this is actually keepable. We can make a zombie on turn 2, just pitching an extra mountain we don't need. So lead on Crypt Breaker. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island and suspends Ancestral Visions. We draw Young Pyro. I think making the zombie is still where we should be here. So opponent untaps, Ancestral Visions ticks down to 3. They play a swamp. They play a Rishadan Dockhand. Pitch a mountain, make a zombie, untap. We draw a mountain, play a mountain, go to combat, attack for 2. I think I'm just going to make another zombie. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a swamp into a Gifted Aetherborn. It looks like they're going to leave up Rishadan Dockhand. Discard a mountain, make another zombie. Untap. They tap our swamp. We draw Immersturm Predator, play a mountain. Play Young Pyro, and pass. We are probably going to draw with Crypt Breaker. Ancestral Vision's ticking down to 1. Opponent plays an island. Attacks for 2 with lifelink. We don't care. Maybe we do kind of care, because that's a Fallen Shinobi. Opponent gets Glorybringer and Soulscar Mage. And you can cast them without paying their mana cost. That's pretty ridiculous. So we are going to have to play Chandra and kill our own Glorybringer. Draw an extra card. It's a Confidant. Untap. We draw a Lightning Bolt. Play Chandra. Kill Glorybringer. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They get to draw 3 cards. They get a Prowess trigger. Opponent plays a Kite Sail Freebooter, so they can take away our Lightning Bolt. Opponent is deep in the tank on this no choice option. I don't know why my opponent is taking so long to make this pick. Probably they stepped away for a second. All right, they're back. So they take Lightning Bolt. They play a land. They replay Gifted Aetherborn. They go to combat and they attack with Soulscar Mage. Alright, so block, block, block. Then draw a card. We get a Swift Spear. We kill the Fallen Shinobi, we lose Crypt Breaker. And we untap. Opponent's going to port down our swamp, which is fine. We draw another swamp. So I can play Immersturm Predator and Swift Spear this turn. If I uptick for mana, otherwise I have to... I think I need to uptick for mana because I need a flyer to block that freebooter. So play Immersturm Predator, play Swift Spear. You should give me enough blockers on the ground. I could also block the Gifted Aetherborn this way. Opponent plays a Frost Titan. So they're going to tap the Predator. Okay, there's no reason to sack anything. We'll exile Fallen Shinobi. We'll get bigger. Opponent goes to combat. They swing everything at Chandra, which will guarantee she dies. Alright. So Chandra down. But we don't have an answer to this Frost Titan, I don't think, anywhere in this deck. And our opponent is way further ahead on the board than we can be. I can play Confidant, I can play War Boss. but that doesn't really do anything. Okay, opponent kills the goblin, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Clever Impersonator, getting a second Frost Titan, which we don't even have an answer to the first, so we're going to go ahead and scoop. Okay. So our opponent's playing blue-black ninjas / Frost Titan. Could bring in Sword of Light and Shadow. Don't think it's actually worth it. There's no blue-black sword, is there? That one's not been printed yet. I think all the other 9 have been. Alright, we'll play first. And we'll keep. I don't think we're going to go on the Pack Rat plan, but it's an option. Lead on Mountain, Soulscar Mage, pass the turn. Opponent plays an island, suspends Ancestral. We draw Young Pyro. Play Pack Rat. Go to combat. Attack for 1. Okay, Ancestral Vision's ticking down. Opponent plays a Swamp. They play a Bitter Blossom. We draw a Mountain. Alright, let's discard Young Pyro, because it does nothing. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Opponent goes to 16. Ancestral Visions ticks down to 2. They lose a life and get a Fairy Rogue. Opponent plays a Midnight Reaper. We untap. Draw a Mountain. Play a Mountain. I think Chandra is going to be a removal spell here. Prowess trigger. Kill Midnight Reaper. Opponent loses a life and draws. If they have Fallen Shinobi, they'll have a pretty big opportunity to just completely eradicate us, but that means they're not attacking at Chandra if they do that, which means we would be able to uptick Chandra before playing Goldspan Dragon. Opponent attacks Chandra to kill her. Okay. We untap. Draw Dark Confidant. Play a Mountain. Play Goldspan Dragon. Opponent is going to Subtlety, exiling Rishadan Dockhand. Goldspan, I'm going to put on top. Because it is a giant hasty threat. Go to combat. Attack for 5. Opponent has a Pestermite, which they use to untap their Swamp, or not. So they're going to trade with the Pack Rats and take 1. Okay. They untap, Ancestral Vision's ticking down, Bitter Blossom takes them to 5. They cast Ancestral Vision, drawing 3 cards. They play an island. They go to combat, attack us for 1. Oh great, they're going to get our Goldspan Dragon. I didn't even think about that. And a Searing Blaze. And they play the land this turn. Well, Fallen Shinobi is by far the craziest Magic card when it actually does its thing. Kaleidoscorch. Well, we kind of only have one hope. It's not a good one. So my opponent is going to hit us for 10 and exile 2 cards off of the top of the mono-red deck. They have to dodge any direct damage that we have in the deck, and then we have to flashback Kaleidoscorch without them having a counterspell. Opponent goes to combat, hits us for 10, gets a big treasure, take the damage. They exile Incinerate, which kills us on the spot. Well, we tried. Fun Police, definitely a viable archetype in Modern. Modern Cube is actually quite a bit of fun. I recommend that you all try it if you have Moto and you're inclined towards Cube drafting. It's, I think, $10 to enter a league, but lots of fun, that's for sure. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the last few times have been a little bit earlier than that. I'm still not back to my regular setup, but that will be probably within a week or 2. I will be headed back, which means I'm going to have a pre-recording session to try and cover the drive, because the drive is so incredibly long. But yeah, you're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of June. If you want to have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon down in the description below. Thank you all.